The Arlington Cemetery kerfuffle, the controversy that has recently dropped about Trump giving a campaign ad or doing a campaign ad in the Arlington Cemetery. For those of you who don't know, the Arlington Cemetery is for veterans, people who have died in foreign wars, and it is exclusive. It's controlled by the Army, and they have strict rules and regulations about what can and cannot be done within there, right? And there's been some allegations, some things have come to light. It is a developing story, right? So keep that in mind. But I had some thoughts on it, and I wanted to share those thoughts before we get into the non-voter third-party thing. We talked earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, about Trump, J.D. Vance, Tim Walz, and respect for the military and support for the military, support for our troops, support for people in the armed services, for those who wear the uniform. This is simply another example of Trump putting himself and his wants and desires before anyone else. Let's read the story from CNN, and I'll give my thoughts on that. So here's what CNN has reported. This was a story that was reported first in NPR. It came to light that there was an altercation, a physical altercation of some sort at the cemetery during the event. And since then, it has come to light that when Trump came to do his campaign ad, basically, at the event, to go in and to do a photo shoot of him, a TikTok actually, of him going to the graves and talking shit on Kamala, basically. One of the people who runs the Arlington Cemetery, one of their caretakers, came in and told them to stop. It was against their rules. They weren't allowed to do political and campaign activities on the cemetery. It wasn't for that. Well, apparently, Trump's cronies pushed him down or pushed her down. I'm not exactly sure. And there was a physical altercation. They did not press charges, but it was reported. And the Army, the U.S. Army, not the Veterans Affairs, not the VFW, none of that. The U.S. Army itself has issued a statement. Let's read, okay? The U.S. Army has issued a stark rebuke of former President Donald Trump's presidential campaign over the incident on Monday at Arlington National Cemetery, saying in a statement on Thursday, that's today, ladies and gentlemen, that participants in the ceremony were made aware of federal laws regarding political activity at the cemetery and abruptly pushed aside an employee of the cemetery. Participants in the August 26th cemetery and the subsequent Section 60 visit were made aware of federal laws, Army regulations, and DoD policies, which clearly prohibit political activities on cemetery grounds. An ANC, Arlington National Cemetery, employee who attempted to ensure adherence to these rules was abruptly pushed aside, the Army spokesperson said in the statement on Thursday. Section 60 is an area in the cemetery largely reserved for the graves of those who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. They continue. The incident was unfortunate, and it is also unfortunate that the ANC employee and her professionalism, so it's her, I guess, has been unfairly attacked. Because of course it has, gang. Because again, if you stand up to Trump in any way, shape, or form, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what level of service you've served, what you've done for the country. It does not matter. They will viciously attack you. They will viciously seek you out, attack you, denigrate you, call you the worst names imaginable, make memes of them killing your children, of Trump killing your children, as they did to David French. This happens over and over and over and over again. People have argued with me, oh, well, he has a First Amendment right to do this. He has a First Amendment right to take these photos and things like that. Maybe so, but if I'm at a gravesite, a cemetery, and the people who work at the cemetery come up to me and say, hey, this is disrespectful, you probably shouldn't do this, this is against our rules and regulations. You know what I do, and pretty much any reasonable American does, someone who respects our troops, respects the Army, respects its traditions, they say, okay, and they comply. The fact that Trump did not comply and instead I don't think he did it directly, to be clear, but his staff physically pushed this woman out, who was just trying to do her job, out of the way so that they could, again, make this campaign ad, just tells you all you really need to know about where Trump's priorities lies and what exactly his respect for the military entails. This man does not respect the military at all. And even worse, all those people who claim to respect the armed forces coming out and defending this. This is indefensible. It's simply not. And people are like, well, oh, Biden has done this before. Biden had a campaign ad before. Well, he got permission from the ANC, right? And the photographs that were used were people at the ANC who actually photographed the event. There's a difference here. These are not the same thing. And as I've seen, these ads did not denigrate his political opponent. They simply showed him honoring the dead at the service. And if that was all Trump had done, and he just wanted to have pictures of him putting a wreath in front of these things, and that's it, fair enough. But that's not all this was. Let's not pretend it wasn't. Again, there's strict rules and regulations here, and you can disagree with them. That's fine. But it just shows the kind of person you are. Like, again, I will protect your right to free speech to call people slurs. You can call people slurs. You can do that. I could judge you for it. I don't think you should be arrested or fined, but I could absolutely judge you for it. Okay? And if in the process of trying to make a campaign ad, you were at a gravesite meant to honor the dead, and you decide that rather than respect the wishes of the people who care for the dead, to care for their cemeteries, from the army itself who owns that cemetery and for their rules and regulations, if you decide that your little campaign ad is more important than that, you don't support the military. You don't. Trump supports Trump. That's it. That's all it ever was. And this poor lady, she didn't file charges because if she knows if she did, they would ruin her. They would make an example of her as they have so many before. This is a pattern of behavior that I just needed to talk about a little bit. Hopefully, the gentleman who's been disagreeing with me on Twitter will agree to our Friday debate on this, and we have a discussion. But yeah, I think this is just add it to the pile, okay? Add it to the pile. The mounting evidence, at this point, undeniable, a mountain of it. Right? It's not just one person's word. It's not just two people's words. It's not just one incident here or there. It's over and over and over and over and over again. Books have been written on this from Trump's foreign advisors, right? Not just one, several foreign advisors, right? And you have, again, anyone who interacts with this man who does not bend the knee is seen as an enemy and will be viciously attacked.